Hi, and welcome back to my channel. There's a huge question around AI. Will AI cause massive disruptions in the labor force? This question's so important, I thought I'd dedicate an entire video to answering it. I think it's important for all business leaders to understand the concerns that employees might have around adopting AI in an organization and how we can speak to those concerns. So let's jump in. Hi, my name is Steve Murphy. I'm a vice president at ARG, and while I work for ARG, this video is my own and does not represent the views or opinions of my employer. This channel is dedicated to helping business leaders make great technology decisions. And AI is both a great opportunity and a large threat. At least it's perceived as a threat to many people. Some studies show that as many as 300 million people globally might be displaced by AI, meaning their jobs might be displaced by AI. But is AI that much of a threat? Well, yes and no, in my opinion. First, it is true, AI over time will automate many of the rote, repetitive, and information oriented jobs that are done by people today. Areas like data entry, customer care, and even sales will be impacted tremendously. Other areas are not as obvious, but AI will also impact things like legal, finance, accounting, marketing. Operations within a factory environment will be automated and will be impacted considerably by AI as well. But in my opinion, AI will take a long time to significantly impact those roles. So when employers are asked whether AI will cost jobs, how can they respond? My response is no, AI will not take your job. Someone using AI will take your job. So wouldn't you want to be that person using AI to protect your job? I realize this is a very flippant answer to a very serious question, and I would suggest you not quote me, but the core of the response. That is, that everyone who does not embrace AI is at risk, and even those who do embrace AI are at risk, but at much lower risk than, and AI educated people will be way more employable than in other companies, is the heart of that sentiment. It's also important to communicate that AI is not a light switch that we flip and instantly have all the benefits and all the efficiencies. When we implement AI, it can take years to arrive at the maximum efficiency and maximum impact. So, when AI is going to impact the staffing requirements of a department, it will impact the staffing requirements over time. With that time, we can allow attrition to play a role in the overall staff reductions that are required to support the AI business case. Rather than massive layoffs in an organization, what I think we'll see generally is a normal attrition of staff, and those naturally departing staff are not replaced. Good people, in my opinion, and in my experience, are retained by the organization, even if there is a disruption in their immediate role. They are offered roles, other roles and duties to maintain their value to the organization because, after all, they're good people. This opinion, my opinion, that is, might run contrary to some of the headlines that we were seeing where larger companies are laying off tens of thousands of workers because of AI technology. I think generally that's a bit of a smokescreen. This is just my opinion. I really don't have any facts to base this on, but I believe that these organizations need to lay people off. They've overhired during COVID when people were competing for skilled, or I should say, organizations were competing for skilled employees. And now they've overstaffed and they have to reduce their organization to the right size. Rather than admitting they overhired, they're blaming AI. They're spinning bad news into good news. So again, when you need to respond to an employee concern about AI displacing their role, my response to them is to recommend that employees embrace AI, learn from it as it's being implemented, and build their resume to help them if they need to seek new opportunities. Being someone who has experience with AI is going to be incredibly valuable in the future. See it as an opportunity rather than a threat. We can't make a promise that AI will not impact employees. However, it is an opportunity for employees to embrace AI and learn from it. And then when they're impacted, they'll be better suited with a different skill set, a more valuable skill set to find another job in the organization or in an altogether different one. I recognize that this is an imperfect answer. It's essentially saying, yeah, it may impact you, but you should embrace it. Embracing the thing that may ultimately lead to your displacement because it makes you better, more valuable, more marketable should you be displaced? I understand that this is not a very welcoming conversation for most employees who are concerned about their livelihood and their role within the organization. But it's the best that I have, at least. We live in a very uncertain environment and people seek certainty. If you can't give them certainty, at least you can give them opportunity. And whether or not they take up that opportunity and respond to it, quite honestly, that's on them. Getting back to the larger concept of AI and it displacing 300 million workers globally, that may be true. It's a forecast that someone made. But what I think we can also understand is that every technology change or every industrial revolution, if we want to frame the uptake in AI as an industrial revolution, every industrial revolution has displaced workers, but it's also increased the overall workforce. So, just a few examples. Actually, I read something recently, and it was something I'd never been aware of, that during the Great Depression in the United States, farmers in particular had a tremendous problem. Before the broad uptake of automobiles and machinery in the late 1920s and 1930s, 25% of the farm crop in the United States went for horse and oxen feed. The horse and oxen that at that point in time were the primary modes of transportation and mechanization. Horses were replaced with automobiles, and oxen were replaced by machinery, tractors on farms, for example. And there was no longer a requirement for horse and oxen feed. As a result, 25% of the US farm crops were displaced due to that fast transition. This disruption in crop demand, as well as some environmental issues that happened at the time in terms of a drought, was a large contributing factor in the United States depression, especially in the farmland, and led people fleeing farms and moving into urban centers where they became factory workers, and by doing so, accelerated the Industrial Revolution. Now, being a factory worker in the early part of the last century was not a good deal for many people. There were significant labor abuses and life-threatening environments that people were forced to work in to maintain their livelihood. It took time to resolve these issues, so it was a painful disruption, but it was a productive disruption as well. When we think back from this point in history, the Industrial Revolution was, in fact, a very beneficial thing for us to go through, as it lifted the overall standard of living considerably across the globe and created a middle class in many countries. Now, I apologize to my international viewers. I don't know the history of your particular country, so I'm making an assumption on this. Here's another example. This one may not be as technical as the Industrial Revolution, but let's take a look at things like online shopping today. The Amazon.com revolution, if you will. Amazon is being accused of killing the mom and pop retailers. Well, I would argue it's the big box stores who are really displacing the mom and pop businesses in our local communities. But regardless, the argument is whether Amazon.com is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't have an opinion on that. But what I can say is that this type of disruption has happened consistently over history. When here in the United States, and again, I apologize for my international viewers who may not understand some of the references I'll make here, but when Sears and Roebuck introduced their mail order catalog in 1887, where you could buy almost everything from jeans to pots and pans to furniture to entire homes, all from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. That disrupted a lot of local merchandising operations, but that turned into a very productive, level-setting lifting of overall populations and lifting of the standard of living across the entire United States. People were able to access goods that were not immediately available from their local merchant. Local merchants did suffer. I'm sure many went out of business over time, but people could access services, materials, and merchandise way beyond what was available in the immediate local area. So the quality of life of the entire United States was improved by the virtue of the Sears and Roebuck catalog. And that it did displace local merchants was an unfortunate consequence. But overall, consumerism increased. Millions of jobs were created to fulfill the new demand created by the mail order revolution. And by the way, local merchants displaced local craftspeople earlier on. It's just part of the advancement of our society. Like it or not, it happens. Will we see the same thing with AI? Well, I think most of the predictions out there, and maybe I'll join in with them and add my prediction to the pile, say yes, AI will create hundreds of millions of new jobs, even as it displaces hundreds of millions of old jobs. There's a very important factor here, and I think that we all need to understand that the new jobs that AI will create will be jobs that require creativity and a certain level of education. I won't necessarily say formal education, but a certain level of education regarding technology and various other disciplines that will feed into and support the AI platforms and the new industries that AI enables. So, here are just a few examples of the new industries that we might anticipate after the AI revolution. First, the space industry. AI will allow us to do amazing things in space in the future. Biology and medicine, and AI will unlock huge advances in the health industries. Entertainment. We haven't seen anything like the immersive entertainment that will come in the future. Security. If everything is digital, we'll need many more digital protectors in this new landscape. So there will be many, many, many jobs created in this new environment. But to be successful in the next industrial revolution, in my opinion, we need to be a world of learners going forward, not just workers. If you are unable to learn in the future and you are not adaptable to new technologies, to understand and to understand new ways of doing things at a relatively rapid pace, then you're going to struggle in this new environment. The transition will not be without pain, and but it will introduce huge opportunities. People will experience a large amount of dislocation because of AI, and we don't want to take that for granted or be glib about it. So, is AI going to kill jobs? Yes, it will, but it will create other jobs, and the ability for people who are impacted to transition to these other jobs is on the individual. But I do think governments and social institutions have a responsibility to help people understand and to help people transition to these new opportunities. Fundamentally, it'll be up to the individual to decide whether or not they're willing to make the investment in themselves to adapt to these new situations. There are two sides of this coin. I'm not going to sugarcoat that AI will displace workers. I think that it will happen slowly over time, and so workers will have an opportunity to adjust. The question is, on an individual basis, are workers willing to adjust, or are they going to try to maintain their status quo and resist, and therefore possibly suffer under a new AI framework? So that's my opinion. I hope it's as optimistic as it might be threatening. AI is a huge change. We can embrace the change and thrive, or resist the change and roll the dice. There is risk in both approaches, but my hope for you is that you embrace the change and teach your children to be lifelong learners. Adaptability will be the most important trait for all of us in the future. I want to thank you very much for watching this video, and if you got some value out of it, please like it. That helps this video reach other people. And if you want to find your way back to this channel in the future, the best way of doing it is by hitting that subscribe button down below. That will help you find your way back to my channel at your convenience. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.